1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay. Who starts? Bob. You start.
One second. Where's okay, Mike's right behind. Good morning, everyone, and coming on the heels of that wonderful debate, we want to welcome Lee Zeldin, next governor of New York State. You couldn't have done a better job. Anyway, I'm Councilman Robert Holden. I'm a Democrat, but I'm crossing party lines. And why? Because all you have to do is look what's happening in New York City and New York State on a daily basis. Now, we have with us a wonderful, again, a South Asian American, a wonderful South Asian American, again, Karajit Dhaliwal, who I've known for several years, owns this gas station and many other gas stations. And we're here with about 140 men and women who represent the South Asian community. And they represent a lot of gas stations. And they're fed up. They're fed up with all the robberies and burglaries that they're experiencing. The assaults. We've had men assaulted here, workers, by customers sometimes on a daily basis throughout the city. And it's an epidemic. When you have the South Asian community coming together and saying they're going to cross party lines also, like me, many are Democrats, but more importantly that they really fix this city and they could raise their families here and run a business without being assaulted. It's not happening. Again, Kathy Hochul, the governor, 14 months in, things have gotten worse, haven't they? Everybody can say that. Things have gotten worse. People won't take the subway. We were on the subway yesterday. We saw incidents. My wife will never, ever, she said, get on the subway again. She's an Asian American. She said, I will not do it at any cost. We can't live like this. We can't live like this. So we need to elect Lee Zeldin, the next governor of New York State. Now we're at a point. Now I want to bring up a great American. Mr. Dhaliwal is just trying to do his business and feed his family, and again, employs dozens of people, but they're afraid. They're afraid to go to work every day. They might be assaulted at any time. And again, this is something that we have to address. And the only way to do it, and you saw Kathy Hochul last night saying, oh, why are you so concerned about crime, Lee Zeldin? Can you believe that? Why are you so concerned about letting people out of jail to commit other crimes? That's how clueless Kathy Hochul is. So I want to bring up, again, Mike Dhaliwal, who is, like I said, is a good friend and a great American. Come on up.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. And thank you, Mr. Lee, Mr. Coming here, Bob Holden, Mike, for a future assemblyman around here. Here today, we have issues. That's why we're here together. We have a big problem with the crimes. We are getting robbed every week, every single day. They are coming to steal stuff from our gas station, beating my employees, robbing nighttime, jumping behind the counters, and it's a danger. There's a danger. This is not America. We came. This is a different country. We feel like that. There's our governor. She's not doing nothing to control the crimes. Bail reform have to stop, have to amend. We cannot take that. The police doing good job. They catching the guys, but the judge letting them go right away. So we also supporting NYPD. They're doing hard work, but their hands tight because of our system. The Governor Hochul, she's not doing enough to stop the crimes. We are here to Mr. Lee Zeldin, supporting him. We also Democrat, we help them, but this time we need to cross the line. Save our community, save our children, save our America. So we have to support and vote for Jesus. Mr. Zeldin are here today to get fundraising. I'm telling you, everybody. He's here because he care about community. He care about crimes. Mostly politicians go do fundraising. Here today is not coming for fundraising. He came here to care about us. Please, let's wake up and support him. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mike. Mike is the owner here. Councilman Holden, for your remarks and for your support. This is truly a campaign about being able to take back our streets, to be able to secure our streets. Whether you're a small business owner, you run a gas station, having to deal with the realities of people who come in, take inventory and not pay, maybe even assault your employees, and you feel helpless because you can call your local law enforcement, you can call your local prosecutors, you can tell them what is happening, but the reality today is that the handcuffs are getting thrown on the criminal justice system rather than slapping those handcuffs on the people who are actually committing the crimes. I was asking Mike while we were just meeting, how often do you have crimes being committed right here? He says it happens a few times a week. Speaking to someone else in our meeting just now, when was the last time that you've had a crime committed at your gas station? He said this morning. We're not talking about a rare occurrence here. It's rare to have a day where you're not experiencing crimes being committed. And this is a community. This is family. They're all in this together. We're all in this together. We're not here today as Republicans or Democrats or independents. We're here as New Yorkers. Yes. And last night when we were at this debate, after there were a number of questions asked by the moderators specific to crime, I pointed out that we're almost through this entire crime conversation, and still Kathy Hochul was not talking about locking up the criminals. And she has the nerve to say, it's bad enough to think it, but she has the nerve to actually say out loud, questioning why it's so important to me, fighting crime, locking up criminals. Speak to the men and women who are here why this is important. Speak to the Asian American community about what they have lived through when Michelle Go got pushed in front of an oncoming subway car. Members of their own community stabbed to death in Lower Manhattan, beaten to death on the street with a hammer. Speak to the Sikh community about turbans that get knocked off. Just trying to practice your religious freedom. And you're going to pray, and you're being attacked. You're a Sikh cab driver getting assaulted because you're wearing a turban. You're a Jewish New Yorker being attacked because you're wearing a yarmulke. So this is about all of us, concerned about raw, violent hate, wanting to do everything in our power to take back our streets. Why is it so important to me? I mean, I could have been talking about what happened just 2 or 3 Sundays ago on my own front yard. There was a gang-related drive-by shooting on my own property while my 16-year-old girls were at home on a quiet Sunday afternoon doing their homework. This is as personal as it gets for all New Yorkers. And Kathy Hochul isn't getting the job done. The people who are in charge right now in Albany feel like they haven't passed enough pro-criminal laws. They need to go up to Albany to pass even more. We need to support our men and women in law enforcement. We need to make sure that judges have discretion to weigh dangerousness as part of our package of addressing these pro-criminal laws that have been passed. We have to ensure that Mike, his employees, all the business owners who are here and their employees can show up to work, can do their shift. The people who come in as customers, everyone who walks in the door is paying for whatever they are leaving with, that people are safe and they can go about their lives knowing that the elected officials have their backs, know that law enforcement have the tools to have their backs, that prosecutors can prosecute, and DAs can be district attorneys to enforce the law. I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, Councilman Holden, who has been courageous in doing what is right to make sure that the people of his district are safe. I know we're joined here by Tony Nunziata, the chair of the Queens County Republican Committee. I want to again thank Mike, our host here, Mike Canigliaro, who's running our state assembly candidate here. To everyone for coming out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is what's going on.
Yeah, this is the violence.
This is the violence right here.
So just, by the way, I mean, for members of the media that are here, and listen, the reality of this moment, while we're here for a press conference, this is with security here. This is with cameras here, okay? This is with a whole lot of people here. And you see how people are emboldened to challenge employees of this gas station, ready for physical confrontation right here. So 3 weeks ago, one of Mike's employees were assaulted right here where we're having this press conference. You almost witnessed something play out right here in front of all of the cameras just now, despite security. Despite all of us and despite all of you. But anyway, do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Diana Harry with Pix 11. You have held many multiple events calling out issues of crime, but there's other issues in the state. In New York City, there's still a higher unemployment rate than other parts of the country. Is there a point where you will sort of shift to do more events that focus on other pressing topics in the state, or do you feel like continuing to talk about crime is going to be sort of your primary message in your election?
Well, listen, the sense of urgency that I'm hearing from Mike and the other employees and small business owners here in this community of gas station owners, this is an act of desperation for us to be here right now raising awareness for this issue. I'll tell you something else with a sense of urgency that all of us should be greatly concerned about, is that we just finally had the state scores released for our schools. And there's a massive performance gap right now that is expanding between New York and the national average. We're seeing, as a result of the pandemic and lockdown policies, the impact on our kids, really their generation has suffered the most of all generations. And I really appreciate your question, Ayana, and quite frankly, if you asked me 6 times over again, I'll give you 6 different other topics that are very important. But first and foremost on my mind this morning, on top of what we're here to discuss, our kids don't even have a vote. If you look at the 4th grade reading and math performance scores on the tests that were just released, New York spends 2.5 times more per pupil than than Florida and Mississippi, for example. Now, same tests, despite the far less amount that is spent per pupil, they are performing better. Black students, Hispanic students, low-income students, same test. What are we doing wrong? We have to raise our game as it relates to education. We have to challenge our kids to go further. We need to achieve better outcomes. We need to lift the cap on charter schools. We need to promote advanced academics. There's an assault right now on merit-based entry into specialty schools. We have to reward hard work and success. We can't discriminate. We can't discriminate against our students because they're Asian. You know, Mayor de Blasio, he said that he wanted New York specialty schools to look like America. He wasn't talking about the white kids. He was talking about the Asian kids. And by the way, my daughters, I have an Asian American family. The thought that my daughters can check a box that might say Asian American and that somehow they would get discriminated against because of it is wrong. So if you were to talk to the people who are here, first and foremost right now with an incredible amount of urgency, we're hearing people talking about not being able to go through their day without incident. We weren't able to go through our press conference without incident.
Right, yeah.
But I'll tell you that for these parents who are here, there is incredible urgency to improve the quality of education in our schools. There are poor performing public schools. By the way, in the state, there are good public schools. I want to lift up all schools, public and non-public. We can't have our kids trapped in multi-generational poverty. And right now, we really have an urgency in lifting up our game inside of our school system. Very much appreciate your question, and always happy to delve into all sorts of other topics. By the way, and this is one of the reasons why there should be multiple debates across the state. Because we even, I will say Spectrum and NY1 did a fantastic job. Errol Lewis and Susan Arbetter did a great job moderating yesterday's debate. I found them to be fair. We covered a lot of ground. But unfortunately, with just 1 hour and one debate, and a whole lot of people, by the way, have already voted, because, and this was on purpose, that Kathy Hochul wanted to wait until the end of October, well after a month after absentee ballots started going out. We didn't even have a conversation about education in our schools. Now, I'm just curious how many more times you'd want me to say this beyond what I'm about to tell you, because I'm pretty sure you look like a smart guy. You've heard me say this before. I have never once said that the 2020 election of Joe Biden was illegitimate. I didn't say it at any point ever. But the evolution for Kathy Hochul, who doesn't want to talk about crime, she wants to know why it's so important to me. She doesn't want to talk about her pay-to-play corruption. She doesn't want to engage in multiple debates across the state. She wants you, honestly, to be here asking me about the question you asked when, quite frankly, the rest of New Yorkers really want to hear us answer questions like what Ayanna just asked. Listen.
Obviously talking that does need help. Specifically, what do you think you're going to be able to change in those two aspects, crime and schools in the city of New York? Because obviously you're a governor from New York State, city, we're working with the mayor here in the city.
Well, first off, I'll work with anyone to find common ground however possible. And I believe that the story that will be written in 2023 is how well a Governor Zeldin is working with a Mayor Adams to move this city forward. It's our job to find common ground however we can. Mayor Adams and I served together in the state Senate. We stayed in touch since. We've always gotten along. He was elected by the people of New York City to be their mayor. It's really important for New York City residents to see their elected officials working together. Does that mean that we're always going to agree on everything? Absolutely not. By the way, in this country, we're not expected to agree on everything. There are other countries where they demand that everyone agrees with each other. If I say something that Mayor Adams disagrees with, that's fine. And you know what? The next day we could sit down and still work on an issue to find common ground. So I'm confident that we'll be able to work together. Now, the state legislature really should come to the table and want to give judges discretionary dangerousness. By the way, that's something Mayor Adams has been calling for. We should amend raise the age. By the way, that's something that even Mayor Adams has also been calling for. So I believe that this shouldn't be looked at as a Republican versus Democrat issue. But what I've said is that on day one, right after I'm sworn into office, I will declare a crime emergency here in the state of New York. And I will suspend cashless bail and other pro-criminal laws to force the state legislature just to come to the table.
Right.
Now, Plan A would be for them to just come to the table, because us winning this election is a very clear statement of the will of the people, that they want to see these changes made as far as the direction of the state to make sure that our streets are safer again. On our website, zeldinfornewyork.com/secure our streets, you'll see a couple dozen or so different specific proposals. And we've spoken a lot about our many, many different ideas that we believe would improve public safety here in the state. Now, as far as, excuse me, as far as schools go, we actually were just having a conversation about this before we came out, talking about school safety. We have to make sure that whether it's single point of entry, you're looking at particular hours of the day as far as which doors are open, what resources are needed to make sure that the person who's there responsible for securing a school actually has the training, the resources, the communication with others and local law enforcement. We have to improve the relationship between schools and local law enforcement. The sharing of information for the purpose of keeping a school safe. And by the way, school safety, people often like to just talk about guns. And that's okay, we should talk about it. But we should also be talking about other ways that our kids are facing violence and threats inside of schools. And they're facing it through bullying, they're facing it through knives, with hands, they're seeing it with drugs. So there's a lot that needs to be improved upon, because sometimes it's that 11th grader who's actually the one distributing the drugs to others in school. This shouldn't be some sanctuary inside of a school where you're not cracking down on what is a black and white crime. And I'd love to be able to work with the mayor and the Department of Education to address that. Yes, sir. So I'm a supporter of school choice. I went to public school. My daughters go to the same public school I went to. My mother's a retired public school teacher. My father's mother is a retired public school teacher. My father's father was a public school teacher. I want to lift public schools up. I'm not someone who is against non-public schools. And I feel like this state has been holding down non-public schools, and you have kids trapped in multi-generational poverty who need access to other options if they're trapped in a poor-performing public school. Lifting the cap on charter schools, educational savings accounts, tax credits for school choice, making sure that these parents, regardless of race, ethnicity, wealth, zip code, it doesn't matter. Every kid should have access to a quality education. I believe that competition is good. We have to make the diploma worth more. If you're going into 9th grade and 10th grade and you decide that you do not want to go to college, that's okay. When you view the high school diploma as solely a ticket to college, and you have decided that you will not go to college, these students are deciding that it doesn't make sense for them to go to school because the only reason to have a diploma is as a ticket to higher education. We need to have them viewing a diploma as a ticket to a good-paying job. More technical education inside of schools, hands-on equipment, networking with trades. We need to make sure that these high school students view that high school diploma as a ticket to a good-paying job the next day. This is just starting to scratch the surface on the many ways that we can improve education. And by the way, Mayor Adams comes in and he asks for mayoral control of local schools. And he got stonewalled and sandbagged for months. He had to beg for it. Don't play these political games, and he's a member of your own party. Forget the political games. Do what's right for the kids. And improving the quality of education. They should have done a 4-year extension of mayoral control the instant that he was sworn into office. Yeah, real quick. Yep.
What is your stance on immigration and what is happening at Randall's Island and the buses that are still being sent not only to New York City but to New York State?
Yeah, buses and flights. There are people who are coming into. They've been coming to New York for a while, and New Yorkers want to know who's coming, where they're coming from, where they're going to. That's one. So, as governor of the state of New York, providing that transparency is important. Two is that if you had a great day today where the mayor, the governor of red states, blue states, everyone got 100% on the same page. They did absolutely everything in their power to solve this. The problem is it still can't be solved and will get worse the next day because you need the federal government doing more to secure our southern border. The governor needs to specifically call on President Biden. In my opinion, by the way, I'm only here speaking for myself on this. I believe that we should finish construction of the border wall, we should end catch and release, we should enforce the Remain in Mexico policy, we should support our Customs and Border Patrol agents, we shouldn't be incentivizing and rewarding illegal entry. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. It's my opinion that we should be doing more to secure our southern border. I also believe strongly that if we don't, that even if you got every blue city, blue state, red state elected on the same exact page, it's still going to get worse the next day. So as far as Mayor Adams goes, his hands are full. You know, in many respects, his hands are tied. I will say that as far as policies go, that there are policies from the city, state, and national level that I believe incentivize and reward illegal entry. For me personally, and I spoke about it last night, I do not support giving non-citizens the right to vote. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens were given the right to vote in a law that was recently overturned. I'm just giving that as one example and stating my opinion because I believe the voters deserve to know where I stand on everything before they vote, not afterwards. So from that respect, listen, if the city wants to look at some of its policies, if the state wants to look at its policies, if the federal government wants to look at its policies, we should always view it, whether we're talking education or whether we're talking about just people in government, and maybe you're trying to deal with the topic of immigration. We always should strive to do better. All of us. Anyone out there giving themselves a pat on the back saying we tried our best, there's nothing else to do here, I am more suspicious of you than anyone else. Yes, sir.
Last question, everybody. Oh, getting back to last night, why does this matter to you? What was your interpretation of the question in terms of her intention behind it? What message was she trying to get to you strategically at a debate to ask you that? What was your understanding as to what she was asking you from her point?
Well, it was very clear what was happening. I was pressing the point that when you talk about cameras, care, and cops, she says the 3 C's, which, by the way, there's an announcement they pulled off a shelf 2.5 weeks before an election. She was never elected governor. She was elected lieutenant governor. She became governor to fill out the rest of Andrew Cuomo's term. That's why she's in this seat right now. And humbly, she should be aware of that. And instead, she's kind of acting like she's running for a 16th term. And that's an impression that a lot of New Yorkers have of her that they share with me. Upset that she refers to New Yorkers as her apostles. Upset that she's referred to herself as the mother of New York's 62 counties. That attitude. So she doesn't come in and actually crack down on this. Instead, she picks Brian Benjamin as her lieutenant governor, the champion of the defund the police movement up in Albany, the architect of cashless bail, who, by the way, ends up getting arrested and has to resign because of all sorts of other scandals. She waited till the end of the budget process to propose a minor change to cashless bail. Why did she do it then? And she didn't start it earlier? She should have. She could have put it into her executive budget. What she waited for was the middle of March. On Monday of that week, there was a bad poll that came out for her. On Wednesday, she dropped the first puck at Madison Square Garden at a Rangers game and got booed and roasted out of the arena. On Thursday, the media was reporting that Andrew Cuomo was thinking about running. So overnight on Thursday into Friday, she said, we need to make a change on cashless bail. She does this all based on political whim. She was celebrating when cashless bail got passed. It's still out there on her social media accounts from 2019, celebrating cashless bail like it was a good thing as is. So she waited too long, and she basically ended up getting rolled in the process. And strategically, she completely misplayed it as well by waiting until the last minute to even propose that week change. So I am pressing on the fact that we are going question after question after question after question from these moderators talking about fighting crime, and she's not talking about the 4th C, cuffs. And she decides that she's going to come after me, saying, I don't know why this is such a big deal to you. I mean, listen, if you want to talk from the most personal level, I had a drive-by gang-related shooting on my front yard 3 Sundays ago with my daughters at home doing homework. If you want to talk about why it's personal, We're here having a press conference on crime at gas stations where this morning one of these attendees had a crime take place at their own gas station as they're coming here. There was an assault here where we're having this press conference 3 weeks ago. It's happening here behind me a few times a week. And during this press conference, Mike's employee is getting threatened and starting what was almost a physical altercation in the middle of our press conference, despite all of us being here with cameras and with security. And Kathy Hochul wants to know, she doesn't understand why it's so important to me. That proves that she isn't in touch with the people. It proves that she does not represent the people, because it should be first and foremost in her mind. If she wants to represent New Yorkers, if she cares about New Yorkers, she would have her finger on the pulse, and she wouldn't have to make that point. She wouldn't even be thinking it in her head, let alone actually saying it out loud.
Last question right here.
Eshmeta, Just TV, Indian Media. Candidate Zeldin, what is your message to all of those Democrats in a historically blue state that would never vote for a Republican, but maybe not so thrilled with Governor Hochul's performance? What do you say to them on why they should vote for you?
Republicans, Democrats, and independents need to look at this opportunity less than 2 weeks away as their opportunity as New Yorkers to save New York City and save New York State. They have an opportunity to restore balance and common sense up in Albany. Everything has gone too far left up in Albany. There are a lot of common sense Democrats. Bob Holden is proud to be a common sense Democrat.
Yes.
And there are a lot of other Democrats out there who proudly view themselves as independent-minded. They're New Yorkers, first and foremost. They care about rising crime and skyrocketing costs. They care about being able to feed their family and heat their home. They care about soaring crime and DAs who release violent criminals to roam free on our streets. And these New Yorkers, first and foremost as New Yorkers, need to take control of their destiny, their family's destiny, their community's destiny, and do their part to save our state. Thank you, everybody.
And everybody here in Queens, we're all here. We're immigrants, legal immigrants, and that's the beauty of Queens. Thank you. Thank you.
It's got the color